Marco Rivera rode his black motorcycle through the busy streets of Los Angeles on a sunny Tuesday morning. He was a tall man with a thick beard and many tattoos on his arms. People in his neighborhood knew him as the guy who always caused trouble. Marco did not care what others thought about him. He enjoyed making people feel scared or upset. Today, Marco was in a bad mood. His boss at the repair shop had yelled at him for being late again. Marco hated being told what to do. As he stopped at a red light, he noticed a small park across the street. Two dogs were running and playing near the edge of the park. One was a big German shepherd with a shiny brown and black coat. The other was a muscular gray dog with a square head that Marco thought looked like a pit bull. Marco watched the dogs as they chased each other happily. Something about their joy made him angry. He had never liked animals much, especially dogs. When he was young, a neighbor's dog had bitten him, and since then he felt only hate toward them. The traffic light turned green, but instead of going straight, Marco turned his bike toward the park. He slowed down as he got closer to the dogs, who were now near the sidewalk. The dogs did not notice him coming. They were too busy playing with a tennis ball. "Stupid animals," Marco whispered under his helmet. Without warning, he stuck out his heavy black boot as he rode past them. His foot hit the gray dog hard in the side. The dog yelped in pain and fell, rolling on the grass. The German shepherd jumped back in fear. Marco laughed loudly as he sped away, feeling powerful for hurting something smaller than him. What Marco did not know was that someone important had seen everything. Parked just 50 feet away was a black Range Rover with dark windows. Inside sat Jason Statham, the famous movie star known for his action films. Statham was taking a break between filming scenes for his new movie. The gray dog that Marco had kicked was Oswald, or Ozzy for short, Statham's beloved pet. Statham's face turned hard with anger as he watched his dog struggle to stand up. Ozzy limped slightly as he tried to walk. Statham got out of his car quickly and jogged to his dog. He gently checked Ozzy for injuries, running his hands over the dog's ribs and legs. "It's okay, boy. I've got you," Statham said softly as he patted Ozzy. The dog whimpered but wagged his tail, recognizing his owner. The German shepherd came over too, sniffing at Ozzy with concern. This dog belonged to Statham's friend who was working on the same movie. Statham looked in the direction Marco had gone, but the motorcycle was already far away. However, he had seen the license plate clearly, AXR 729. He took out his phone and called his security team. "I need information on a motorcycle rider right now," Statham said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "License plate AXR 729. The rider just attacked my dog. Also, get the set medic to come check on Ozzy at the park." As Statham waited for help to arrive, he gently stroked Ozzy's head. Many people knew Jason Statham as a tough guy from his movies, but in real life, he was even more determined and skilled. He had been a competitive diver and knew martial arts. More importantly, he deeply loved his rescue dog Ozzy, who had already suffered abuse before Statham adopted him. "Don't worry, Ozzy," Statham said quietly. "We'll find him." The set medic arrived quickly and checked over Ozzy. The dog was bruised but had no broken bones. Still, Jason Statham was not going to let this go. He gently put Ozzy in the back seat of his Range Rover, where the dog had a comfortable bed. Then he called his friend Tom to take care of the German shepherd. "I need to handle something," Statham told Tom. "Can you watch both dogs and tell the director I need an hour?" Tom nodded, knowing not to ask questions when Statham had that look in his eyes. After making sure Ozzy was safe, Statham drove away from the set. He picked up his phone and called his security team again. "What did you find out about that license plate?" he asked. "The motorcycle belongs to Marco Rivera," said the voice on the phone. "He works at Big Mike's Auto Repair on 7th Street. He has been in trouble with the law before for fighting and property damage. We also found his home address and the places he usually goes after work. Send all that information to my phone." Statham said. "And contact the police about the animal cruelty. Tell them I have it on video from the set cameras." Marco had no idea about any of this. After kicking the dog, he had gone to work at the repair shop. His boss Mike yelled at him again for taking too long on his break. Marco just shrugged and went back to fixing a car engine. He did not feel bad about what he had done to the dog. In fact, he was planning to tell his friends about it when they met later at their favorite bar, the Red Door. At 6 o'clock, Marco cleaned his hands and left work. He got on his motorcycle and rode through the city to the Red Door. Some of his friends were already there. They sat at their usual table in the back. "Hey guys," Marco said as he joined them. He ordered a beer and started telling them about his day. "You know what I did today? I saw these two dogs playing in the park. One was a big German shepherd, and the other looked like a pit bull. I rode by and kicked the gray one hard. You should have seen it roll." Some of his friends laughed, but others looked uncomfortable. His friend Dave spoke up. "Man, that is not cool. Why would you hurt a dog like that?" "Because I can," Marco said with a smirk. "What are they going to do, tell on me?" The bar door opened, and a few new people walked in. No one at Marco's table paid much attention. They were busy drinking and talking. None of them noticed the man in the black jacket who sat alone at a small table in a corner. He wore a cap pulled low over his eyes, but anyone who looked closely would recognize Jason Statham watching them. Statham had followed Marco's motorcycle to the bar. Now he listened as Marco bragged about hurting Ozzy. It took all of Statham's self-control not to confront Marco right away. But he had a better plan. He texted his security team and 2 police officers who were waiting outside. "Target is inside." He just admitted to the crime. Marco was on his 3rd beer when he stood up. "Going to the bathroom," he told his friends. He walked across the bar, not noticing that Statham got up and followed him. The bathroom was empty when Marco went in. He used the toilet and then washed his hands at the sink. As he looked up into the mirror, he saw someone else had entered the bathroom. The man was standing behind him, arms crossed. Marco turned around, and his eyes went wide with shock. "You?" Marco said, his voice suddenly weak. "You are Jason Statham." "And you," Statham said quietly, "are the man who kicked my dog today." Marco felt his stomach drop. His mouth went dry. Standing in front of him was not just any movie star, but Jason Statham, a man known for playing tough guys in action movies. And now Marco learned that the dog he had kicked belonged to him. "I think you have the wrong guy," Marco said, trying to sound brave. He looked around the small bathroom, noticing there was only one door, and Statham was blocking it. "No, I have the right guy," Statham said calmly. "My dog Ozzy, the one you kicked today, is a rescue. Do you know what that means? He was saved from people who hurt him. It took months for him to trust humans again. And then you come along and kick him for fun." Marco tried to laugh it off. "Come on, it was just a dog. No big deal. I barely touched it." Statham's eyes narrowed. "It is a big deal to me, and to Ozzy, and to the law. Animal cruelty is a crime in California." Marco started to feel nervous. He was much taller than Statham, but something about the movie star made him feel smaller. Maybe it was the calm way Statham spoke, or maybe it was knowing that Statham was trained in real fighting, not just movie fighting. "Look, I am sorry, okay? Can we just forget about it?" Marco said. "No, we cannot forget about it," Statham replied. "Actions have consequences. My security team has already contacted the police. They have the video from our film set showing what you did." Marco felt anger rising inside him. Who did this rich movie star think he was? Marco stepped forward, pushing past Statham toward the door. "Whatever, man. I am leaving." As Marco brushed against him, Statham moved quickly. In one smooth motion, he grabbed Marco's arm and twisted it behind his back. He pushed Marco against the wall, holding him there firmly, but not enough to hurt him. "Let me go," Marco yelled, but his face was pressed against the cold bathroom wall. "Listen carefully," Statham said quietly. "I could hurt you right now. I know how. But I am not like you. I do not hurt those weaker than me to feel powerful." At that moment, the bathroom door opened. 2 police officers walked in. They looked at the scene in front of them. "Mr. Statham," one officer asked, "is this the man from the video?" Statham let go of Marco and stepped back. "Yes, this is him. I have witnesses and video evidence of him kicking my dog today at Wilshire Park." The officers approached Marco. "Sir, we need to talk to you about an animal cruelty incident. Please turn around and put your hands behind your back." "This is crazy," Marco said, but he knew he was trapped. The officers handcuffed him and read him his rights. As they led Marco out of the bathroom, his friends at the table stared in shock. The whole bar went quiet as people realized what was happening. Someone whispered, "That guy kicked Jason Statham's dog." Another person said, "What an idiot. Everyone knows Statham loves that dog." Marco kept his head down as the police walked him outside to their car. His face burned with shame. For the first time, he started to regret what he had done, not just because he got caught, but because he saw how everyone looked at him. Statham watched from the bar doorway as the police car drove away. He felt no joy in seeing Marco arrested. He just wanted justice for Ozzy. He pulled out his phone and called the movie set. "How is Ozzy doing?" he asked. "He is fine," his friend Tom said. "The medic gave him some pain medicine. He is sleeping now." "Good," Statham said. "I am coming back. We have an early shoot tomorrow." He got into his Range Rover and headed back to the set, wondering what would happen to Marco now. Marco spent the night in a small jail cell. He had never been arrested before, only warnings and tickets. The cell was cold and the bed was hard. He could not sleep. All night he thought about what had happened and how quickly his life had changed, just for kicking a dog. In the morning, a police officer came to his cell. "Rivera, time for your hearing." Marco was led to a courtroom where a judge would decide if he could go home or had to stay in jail until his trial. He saw his mother sitting in the back row. Her face looked sad and angry at the same time. Marco felt ashamed for the first time. "Marco Rivera," the judge said, looking at some papers. "You are charged with animal cruelty, a misdemeanor in the state of California. How do you plead?" Marco looked at the public defender standing next to him. The lawyer nodded. "Not guilty," Marco said, though his voice was not very strong. "The victim in this case is requesting the maximum punishment," the prosecutor said. "We have clear video evidence of Mr. Rivera deliberately kicking a dog for no reason. The dog belonged to Mr. Jason Statham, who is prepared to testify." The judge looked at Marco over her glasses. "Mr. Rivera, this court takes animal cruelty very seriously. However, since this is your first offense of this kind, I will set bail at $5,000. Marco knew his mother did not have that kind of money. He would have to stay in jail until his trial unless someone helped. After the hearing, he was allowed to talk to his mother. "Mama, I am sorry," he said. His mother shook her head. "Why, Marco? Why would you hurt an animal? I did not raise you to be cruel." "I do not know," Marco said honestly. "I was angry about work, and I saw the dogs looking happy, and something in me just wanted to ruin it." "That is not a good reason," his mother said. "And now look where you are. I cannot afford bail." Marco hung his head. "I know. I will just have to stay here." As they were talking, the public defender came over. "Mr. Rivera, there is someone here who wants to talk to you." Marco looked up and was surprised to see his boss, Big Mike, walking toward them. Big Mike was a large man with a bald head and arms covered in tattoos. He looked angry, which was his normal face. "Marco, you idiot," Big Mike said. "I heard what happened. You kicked Jason Statham's dog. Are you crazy?" "I did not know it was his dog," Marco said. "That does not make it better," Big Mike said. He turned to Marco's mother. "Mrs. Rivera, I came to help. I am going to pay Marco's bail." Marco was shocked. "Why would you do that? You are always yelling at me for being late." "Because I yell at you for being late, not for being a bad person," Big Mike said. "I think you need help, not jail time. And I need you back at work because Johnson quit yesterday and I have 3 cars that need fixing." After the paperwork was done, Marco was released to his mother and Big Mike. As they walked outside the courthouse, Marco saw camera crews and reporters. "What is all this?" he asked. "You kicked a movie star's dog," Big Mike said. "It is all over the internet. Not the smartest move, kid." Marco ducked his head as they hurried to Big Mike's truck. He knew this was not over yet. He still had to face trial, and now people everywhere knew what he had done. For the first time, Marco truly wished he could take back what he did, not just because he got in trouble, but because maybe Big Mike was right. Maybe he needed help. In the days that followed, Marco tried to return to normal life. But things had changed. When he went back to work at Big Mike's auto repair, the other mechanics stared at him. Some would not talk to him. Customers who recognized him from the news sometimes left when they saw him working on their cars. Big Mike called Marco into his office after a customer asked for a different mechanic. "Listen, kid," Big Mike said. "You made a big mistake, but I believe people can change. That is why I helped you. But you need to show everyone else you can change too." "How do I do that?" Marco asked. "First, you need to talk to someone about your anger," Big Mike said. "I know a counselor who helped my brother after he came back from the war. He had anger problems too." Marco started to say no, but then stopped himself. His whole life, he had solved problems by getting angry or fighting. And where had that gotten him? Almost in jail, and now hated by many people. "Okay," Marco said finally. "I will try." The next day, Marco went to see the counselor. Dr. Lisa was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense way of talking. She asked Marco many questions about his life, his childhood, and why he had kicked the dog. "I do not know why I did it," Marco said. "I was just angry." "Anger is usually covering up another feeling," Dr. Lisa said. "When you saw those dogs playing and happy, what were you really feeling?" Marco thought about it. "I guess I was jealous. They seemed so free and happy. My life has not been happy for a long time." After several sessions with Dr. Lisa, Marco began to understand his anger better. He learned that his father leaving when he was young had hurt him deeply. He had been bullied in school for being poor, and he had never learned how to handle his feelings except by getting angry. Meanwhile, Marco's court date was getting closer. His public defender told him that Jason Statham was still pushing for the maximum punishment. "The good news is that you are seeing a counselor," the lawyer said. "That might help your case, but you need to show real remorse." "I do feel bad now," Marco said, and he meant it. "Not just because I got caught, but because I hurt an innocent animal." One evening, Marco was working late at the shop. Everyone else had gone home. He was fixing a difficult engine problem and lost track of time. When he finished, he noticed someone standing in the garage doorway. It was Jason Statham. Marco froze. His first thought was to run, but he stood his ground. "Can I help you?" Marco asked, his voice shaking a little. "I wanted to see you before the trial," Statham said, walking into the garage. "I wanted to understand why you did it." Marco wiped his hands on a rag, giving himself time to think. "There is no good reason," Marco said finally. "I was angry and took it out on your dog. I am sorry, really sorry." Statham studied Marco's face, looking for any sign that he was lying. "How is your dog?" Marco asked. "Ozzy is fine now," Statham said. "He was scared for a few days, did not want to go to the park. But he is tough." "Like his owner," Marco said. Statham almost smiled. "Why are you working so late?" "Big Mike paid my bail. I owe him. And working on cars is the one thing I am good at." Statham looked at the engine Marco had been fixing. My friend has a car like this. Having trouble with it. The timing belt needs adjusting, Marco said automatically. These models always have that problem. For a moment, they were just two men talking about cars. Then Statham's face became serious again. The trial is next week, he said. I want you to know that I am still going to testify against you. What you did was wrong. I know, Marco said. I will accept whatever punishment I get. As Statham turned to leave, Marco called after him. Mr. Statham, thank you for coming to talk to me. Most people would not have done that. Statham nodded once and walked out, leaving Marco wondering what would happen next. The day of the trial arrived. Marco wore his best clothes, which was just clean jeans and a button-up shirt. His mother sat behind him in the courtroom. Big Mike was there too, along with Dr. Lisa, his counselor. On the other side of the room sat Jason Statham with his lawyers. They looked expensive in their nice suits. The judge called the court to order, and the trial began. The prosecutor showed the video from the movie set security cameras. Marco watched himself on the screen riding his motorcycle toward the dogs. He saw himself kick Ozzy, who tumbled across the grass. Marco felt sick watching it. How could he have done that? The state calls Jason Statham to the stand, the prosecutor said. Statham walked to the front of the courtroom and took the oath to tell the truth. He described finding Ozzy after the kick and taking him to the set medic. Ozzy is a rescue dog, Statham explained to the court. Before I adopted him, he was used in illegal dog fights. He was beaten and starved to make him aggressive. When I got him, he was afraid of everyone. It took months of patience to help him trust humans again. Then Mr. Rivera kicked him for no reason other than his own amusement. The prosecutor asked Statham more questions about that day. Then it was time for Marco's lawyer to ask questions. Mr. Statham, did you confront my client in the bathroom of the Red Door Bar? Yes, I did, Statham said. Did you physically restrain him? Briefly, when he tried to push past me. No further questions, Marco's lawyer said. Next, the prosecutor called Marco to the stand. Marco was nervous as he walked to the front. He felt like everyone was staring at him. Mr. Rivera, why did you kick Mr. Statham's dog? The prosecutor asked. Marco took a deep breath. I was angry that day. My boss had yelled at me, and I felt bad about myself. When I saw the dogs playing and being happy, I got jealous. I wanted to make something else feel as bad as I did. And you think that excuses animal cruelty? No, Marco said firmly. It does not excuse it. Nothing excuses what I did. I am deeply sorry. Why should the court believe you are sorry? The prosecutor asked. Is it just because you got caught? Marco looked over at Statham. At first, yes, I was only sorry I got caught. But since then, I have been seeing a counselor. Dr. Lisa has helped me understand my anger issues. I never had a father to teach me how to be a man, so I thought being tough and mean was the way to be strong. I was wrong. When the prosecutor finished, Marco's lawyer asked him a few questions about his counseling and his work at Big Mike's shop. Then Marco returned to his seat, feeling drained. Finally, it was time for the judge to decide Marco's punishment. The courtroom was very quiet as everyone waited. Mr. Rivera, the judge began, animal cruelty is a serious offense. The video evidence clearly shows you deliberately harming an animal for no good reason. The normal sentence would be a fine of $2,000 and up to 1 year in jail. Marco's stomach dropped. A year in jail would ruin his life. However, the judge continued, I have also heard testimony about your efforts to change. Your employer and your counselor both speak highly of your progress. Therefore, I am sentencing you to 3 months of probation, 200 hours of community service at the local animal shelter, and mandatory continued counseling. You must also pay a $500 fine. Do you understand? Marco could hardly believe what he was hearing. No jail time. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Mr. Rivera, I want to be clear, the judge said sternly. This is your one chance. If you violate your probation or harm another animal, you will serve the full jail sentence. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Honor. Crystal clear. As the court adjourned, Marco turned to thank his lawyer. Then he saw Jason Statham walking toward him. Marco tensed, not sure what to expect. You got lucky, Statham said quietly. I know, Marco replied. Thank you for not pushing for jail time. I did not do it for you, Statham said. I told the prosecutor that jail would not teach you anything. Working with animals might. Marco nodded. I will not waste this chance. Statham looked at him hard. See that you do not. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Marco to think about his second chance. The next day, Marco went to the Los Angeles Animal Shelter to begin his community service. The shelter manager, a woman named Rosa, greeted him with a frown. She had heard about his case. Let me be clear, Rosa said as she showed Marco around the shelter. I do not like animal abusers. But the judge says you need to work here, so you will work here. You will clean cages, wash food bowls, and do whatever else needs doing. You will not handle the animals until I say you can. Marco nodded, accepting her rules. The work was hard and smelly. By the end of his first day, Marco was tired and dirty. His hands hurt from scrubbing cages, but he did not complain. This was his punishment, and he had earned it. Day after day, Marco returned to the shelter. He worked silently, doing whatever Rosa asked. The other volunteers ignored him at first. They had also heard about what he did. But after a few weeks, they began to see that Marco was working hard and seemed to care about doing a good job. One day, a young volunteer named Tina dropped a large bag of dog food, spilling it everywhere. Marco quickly helped her clean it up. Thanks, Tina said. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? Marco asked. Someone mean, Tina admitted, but you seem okay. After that, the other volunteers began to talk to Marco more. He learned their names and their stories. Many had their own pets at home and volunteered because they loved animals so much. 1 month into his community service, a new dog arrived at the shelter. It was a small brown dog with one eye and scars all over its body. The dog growled and snapped at anyone who came near its cage. Another fighting dog, Rosa explained to the volunteers, found in a raid on a dogfighting ring last week. He is too aggressive. If he does not calm down in a few days, he will have to be put to sleep. Marco watched the scared dog from a distance. Something about its fear and anger reminded him of himself. That night, he asked Dr. Lisa about it during their counseling session. I feel sorry for this dog, Marco explained. He is mean because people hurt him. Like I was mean because I was hurt. Dr. Lisa nodded. That is an important insight, Marco. Hurt people hurt others, but they can also heal and learn to be kind. The next day, Marco asked Rosa if he could try something with the aggressive dog. You still are not allowed to handle animals, Rosa reminded him. I know, Marco said, but I just want to sit by his cage and talk to him. Maybe read to him. Rosa looked surprised but nodded. You can try. Just do not put your fingers near the cage. That afternoon, Marco sat on the floor next to the dog's cage. The dog growled at him. I know how you feel, Marco said quietly. People hurt you, so now you want to hurt them back. I get that. The dog kept growling, but Marco just sat there, talking in a soft voice. He told the dog about his own life, about his mistakes, and about how he was trying to change. After an hour, he left and went back to cleaning. Every day after that, Marco spent his lunch break sitting next to the dog's cage. By the end of the week, the dog had stopped growling when Marco approached. It would still growl at others, but with Marco, it would lie down and listen. Rosa noticed the change. What are you doing with that dog? She asked Marco. Just talking to him, Marco said. He needs to know not all humans are bad. Rosa studied Marco's face. You really care about what happens to him, do not you? Yes, Marco admitted. I do not want him to be put to sleep because of what humans did to him." Rosa thought for a moment. "Tomorrow, I want you to try something. I will be there to make sure nothing goes wrong." The next day, Rosa opened the dog's cage. "Sit on the floor," she told Marco. "Let him come to you. Do not make sudden moves." Marco sat down, feeling nervous but trying not to show it. The dog stayed in the back of the cage, watching him. "Hey, buddy," Marco said softly. "It is okay. No one is going to hurt you here." Slowly, the dog inched forward, sniffing the air. When it reached Marco, it sniffed his hand, then backed away. Then it came forward again. This time, it sat down next to Marco, still tense, but no longer afraid. "You did it," Rosa said, sounding impressed. "He trusts you." Marco carefully put his hand on the dog's head and gently petted him. The dog leaned against Marco's leg, and for the first time, Marco felt something he had never felt before. He felt needed. Over the next few weeks, Marco worked with the brown dog, who he named Chance. With Rosa's help, Marco learned how to train Chance using treats and gentle words. The dog began to follow Marco around the shelter, staying close to his legs. "You have a real gift," Rosa told Marco one day. "The way you connected with Chance is special. I just understand him," Marco said. "We both got angry because we were hurt." "Have you ever thought about working with animals?" Rosa asked. Marco looked surprised. "No, I have always been a mechanic." "Well, you are good with these dogs," Rosa said. "Especially the difficult ones. Think about it." Marco did think about it. His community service hours were almost done, but he found that he looked forward to going to the shelter each day. The animals did not judge him for his past. They only cared how he treated them now. One Saturday morning, Marco came to the shelter and found Rosa looking worried. "What is wrong?" he asked. "We got 3 new dogs last night," Rosa explained. "They were saved from a bad situation. One is very sick and needs to go to the vet, but our driver called in sick. I have to stay here to process the new arrivals." "I can drive the dog to the vet," Marco offered. "I have a motorcycle, but Big Mike would let me borrow his truck." Rosa hesitated. This was not part of Marco's community service. "Please," Marco said. "I want to help." "Okay," Rosa agreed. "The appointment is at 10. The vet is Dr. Patil on Wilshire Boulevard." Marco got the truck from Big Mike and carefully loaded the sick dog, a thin white dog with patches of missing fur, into a crate in the back. He drove carefully to the vet's office, talking softly to the scared dog the whole way. At the vet's office, Marco carried the crate inside. The waiting room was full of people with their pets. As Marco checked in at the front desk, he heard a familiar voice. "Marco." Marco turned around and saw Jason Statham sitting in a chair with Ozzy at his feet. Marco froze, not sure what to do. The last time he had seen Statham was at the trial. Would Statham be angry to see him here? "What are you doing here?" Statham asked, standing up. "I am bringing this dog from the shelter," Marco explained, pointing to the crate. "She is sick and needed a ride to the vet." Statham looked at Marco for a long moment, then nodded. "Community service." "Yes," Marco said, "but I would have done it anyway. She needs help." Just then, the vet tech called Statham's name. He patted Ozzy's head, and the dog stood up, ready to follow. "Well, good luck with the shelter dog," Statham said. As he walked past, he added, "You seem different." "I am trying to be," Marco said. After Statham and Ozzy disappeared into an exam room, Marco sat down with the sick dog's crate. The dog whimpered, and Marco put his fingers through the crate door to comfort her. "It is going to be okay," he said. "The doctor will help you feel better." When it was their turn, Dr. Patil examined the white dog carefully. "She has a skin infection and is malnourished, but with medicine and good care, she will recover," the doctor said. Marco felt relieved. He thanked Dr. Patil and got the medicine for the dog. As he was leaving, He saw Statham and Ozzy in the parking lot. "How is your dog?" Marco asked, keeping his distance. He did not want Ozzy to be afraid of him. "Just a checkup," Statham said. "He is fine." He looked at the white dog in the crate. "And yours?" "She is not mine," Marco explained. "She is from the shelter, but she will be okay with medicine and food." Statham seemed to be studying Marco. "You know, when I first saw you at the trial, I thought you were just sorry you got caught. But maybe you really have changed." "I am trying," Marco said. "Working at the shelter has taught me a lot. These animals have been through so much, but they still trust humans. It makes me want to be worthy of that trust." Statham nodded slowly. "That is a good way to look at it." He opened his car door for Ozzy to jump in. "Take care, Marco." "You too, Mr. Statham." As Marco drove back to the shelter with the white dog, he thought about his conversation with Statham. For the first time since the incident, he felt like maybe he could make up for what he had done. Not by forgetting it, but by becoming a better person because of it. 6 months had passed since Marco's trial. His community service hours were completed, but he still volunteered at the shelter every weekend. He had also finished his probation without any problems. During the week, he worked at Big Mike's shop, fixing cars as he always had. But he was different now. Marco no longer got angry when customers complained. He did not race his motorcycle through the streets. He even helped his mother with her garden on Sundays after visiting the shelter. Dr. Lisa told him she was proud of his progress. Chance, the brown dog, had become the shelter's success story. With Marco's help, the once aggressive dog was now friendly and playful. Several families had looked at adopting him, but none seemed right to Marco. One Saturday morning, Marco arrived at the shelter to find Rosa looking excited. "Big news," she said. "A famous person is coming today to donate supplies and maybe adopt a dog. We need to make sure everything looks perfect." "Who is it?" Marco asked. Rosa smiled. "Jason Statham." Marco's stomach tightened. He had not seen Statham since their brief meeting at the vet's office months ago. Would Statham be upset to see him still working here? "Maybe I should go," Marco suggested. "I do not want to make things awkward." Rosa looked confused. "Why would it be awkward? You are one of our best volunteers now." Before Marco could explain, the shelter door opened. Jason Statham walked in, followed by 2 assistants carrying boxes of supplies. Ozzy trotted beside him on a leash, looking healthy and happy. Marco tried to make himself busy in the back of the shelter, but Rosa called him over. "Marco, can you show Mr. Statham our rescue dogs? You know their stories better than anyone." There was no way to avoid it now. Marco walked over, feeling nervous. Ozzy saw him first and stopped walking. Marco froze, afraid the dog would remember him and be scared. But instead, Ozzy wagged his tail. "Hello, Mr. Statham," Marco said. "Welcome to the shelter." Statham looked at Marco with surprise. "You are still here. I thought your community service would be done by now." "It is," Marco explained. "I volunteer on weekends now." Statham nodded slowly, taking this in. "And they trust you with the animals." Rosa joined them. "Marco is our best volunteer with difficult cases. He has a special way with dogs that have been abused." "Is that so?" Statham said, looking thoughtful. Marco knelt down to Ozzy's level, holding out his hand. "May I?" Statham nodded, and Marco gently petted Ozzy's head. The dog licked his hand, showing no fear. "He does not even remember what happened," Marco said quietly. "Dogs are good that way," Statham replied. "They live in the present, not the past." Marco stood up. "Would you like to see the dogs we have for adoption?" Statham nodded, and Marco led him through the shelter, introducing each dog and telling its story. When they reached Chance's kennel, the brown dog ran to the door, excited to see Marco. "This is Chance," Marco explained. "He was used in dogfights before coming here. He was so aggressive at first that they were going to put him to sleep. But we worked together, and now he is a different dog. Statham watched as Marco opened the kennel door, and Chance jumped up to lick his face. You really do have a way with them, Statham admitted. I understand them, Marco said simply. I know what it is like to be angry and afraid. After seeing all the dogs, they returned to the front desk where Rosa was organizing the donated supplies. Thank you for the tour, Statham said to Marco. And for what it is worth, I think you have changed since we first met. I have, Marco agreed. That day was the worst mistake of my life, but it led me here, and I found something I love doing. Statham seemed to make a decision. I came here today because I am starting a foundation to help rescue dogs, especially those from fighting rings. We need people who understand these animals and can help rehabilitate them. Marco nodded, thinking it was a good idea. Would you be interested in working for the foundation? Statham asked. Full-time, with proper training and certification. You have a gift, and it should not be limited to weekend volunteering. Marco was shocked. You would trust me, after what I did. That was a different Marco, Statham said. This Marco has earned a second chance, just like these dogs. Rosa clapped her hands together. That would be wonderful. Marco is wasted as a mechanic. Marco thought about it. He loved working with the shelter dogs, but he had never imagined making a career of it. And coming from Statham, the offer meant even more. I would be honored, Marco said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for believing in me. One more thing, Statham said, looking at Chance. I think this guy should come home with you. He clearly loves you, and every trainer needs a good dog of his own. Marco looked at Chance, who was sitting by his feet, looking up at him with trust in his eyes. For a moment, Marco remembered the angry young man he had been, laughing as he kicked a dog. That person seemed like a stranger now. Yes, Marco said, reaching down to pet Chance's head. We belong together. As they finalized the adoption papers, Marco realized that his worst mistake had led to his greatest blessing. By hurting an innocent animal, he had been forced to face his own pain and anger. And in healing himself, he had found his true purpose, helping dogs like Chance heal too.